It is 6 o'clock, and we are going to call to order and reconvene the County Council meeting of September 4th, 2018 at 6 o'clock. And this is a public hearing, and we'll have the staff report first and proceed.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'll just make a couple opening comments, and then we'll have Ms. Bong come up. And we have a couple items, because we will have we will do the ECHO transfer as part of this tonight as well. Today, of course, is our public hearing. It's required by Florida statute. 10 taxing funds today will require a vote for the millage rate, required to meet the budget. As we've discussed, the general fund is being presented at the rollback rate, and the remaining funds are at last year's rate. Want to also point out that all the elected officials, all of them, court, elections, property appraiser's office, sheriffs, all of their budget requests were fully funded, even though we are at the rollback rate. We have addressed public safety throughout. We are also continuing pay-as-you-go for major capital projects. We have some of the 800 megahertz backbone system, of course the medical examiner, Sheriff CAD records management, the 911 Sheriff next generation work, the corrections jail network. We have the Votran route in Deltona. We have we've addressed the pay adjustment of 4% as outlined in the union contracts and our pay plan. We do have in our emergency reserves $20.5 million in the general fund, 1.9 in the library, mosquito control at just under 500,000, Port Authority at 327,000, and the MSD at 3.1 million. These reserves are required and meet your previous goals. The MSD is a little bit under, it's 7%. Yeah, also we have the pay plan adjustment for our 911 operators. Is also part of this, and like I say, we'll turn it over now to talk a little bit about the ECHO, and then we'll get into the thing at hand, the budget at hand. Go ahead, Tammy.
Good evening. Tammy Bong, your Budget and Administrative Services Director. One of the actions required tonight and all your supporting documentation in your packets today includes the adjustment that you discussed earlier today of the transfer for FY19's budget. So within that, I just need a motion that we accept the reduction in the boardwalk fund of $2,801,841 because it does change your bottom line if your 19 budget.
Ms. Wheeler.
I would like to make a motion on that movement of those funds.
Okay, the motion's been made. Is there a second? Second, Cusack. The motion's been made to transfer $2,801,841 from the boardwalk fund to the ECHO fund. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, if I might correct that, actually what you're doing is you're going to reduce and remove that transfer in the 19 budget. You can reduce that transfer. That's going to be eliminated for the 19 budget. You're not going to actually transfer anything.
Well,
the figure is correct.
Well, we did 3.3 million earlier.
Right.
And I'd be happy to clarify the difference between the
That's
two.
right. I just was reading what was in front of me.
Absolutely. The number, the $2,801,841 is your budgeted FY19 transfer that we originally had budgeted in Georgia's recommended budget submittal. The action earlier today was action that we had budgeted for prior years. So it's money that was collected in the boardwalk fund, and we were returning that money back to the ECHO fund. So that's the difference between the two.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any other comments? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
And if you would like, I can go over a few budgeted items with a PowerPoint presentation for the citizens today.
Okay. This is, as I stated, this is a public hearing. I have no cards of anyone wishing to speak, so we will close the public hearing.
Actually, I need to read into record some of these items, and then we can go back to public participation after that. I just need to read some of the items into the record before we open it up to the public comment.
Okay.
Part of our guidelines today.
Okay. Public hearing was not closed. It's
Still out
Thank
there.
you.
Still open.
It's still open. I made a mistake.
Today's presentation, of course, as George had mentioned, is part of a Florida statute. In 1980, the legislator passed what is called Truth and Millage, or TRIM, as an acronym. It's a statutory requirement within Florida Statute 200 that all taxing authorities levying a millage rate must follow throughout the entire state of Florida. So we're all consistent with this process. And it does outline your budget hearing processes and so forth. For the public listening today, I wanted to reference our budget document. So as I go through the slides, I want to reference the pages that they can find this information so they can look that up as a guide in the future. Also for today, I wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to share with you that based upon the dialogue we received during your public participation last year, we were able to enhance your budget document with 3 schedules based upon some of the council's inquiries. And those included a summary of interfund transfers. So all the interfund transfers that are going to and from, there's a schedule in our budget document and the budget overview that will help the readers understand that process. So I know that's a little confusing. We've also included a summary of your reserves. So reserves has a lot of discussion throughout the community, and what we've done based upon your guidelines is we put some narrative next to each one of those funds reserves and explain what the purposes of those were for. And then the last new schedule was a summary of your capital funding. We put together a summary by fund of what your commitment is to your 5-year forecast. So for example, it has every fund that has capital related expenditures forecasted, and that is in your capital area of your budget document as well. We also look forward to the fall, where we're going to look for ways to improve and enhance our communication abilities for your capital section of the document. So that's something we'll be working on this during the fall. The first slide that we have, this is displayed in your budget message. This is a history of your taxable values as it demonstrates that we have not recovered from what we call the pre-bubble of 2007. However, we are back to the 2009 levels. The next is your new construction and reassessments. The yellow line represents new construction, so you see that growth in new construction, and this is the highest it's been for over 10 years. The next 2 lines are the actual total change and your reassessment. So a lot of the changes that you've seen over the last few years has really primarily been reassessment of the property values. And taking that one step further, your total taxable value, we're breaking it down so you know that 67% of the makeup of your taxable value has to do with residential, and right around 20% commercial. So taking that taxable value and just focusing on the residential part, you will notice that 60% of it are homes that are taxable valued under $100,000. And if you add in the $150,000 mark, you're at 77% of all of your residential values are taxable under $150,000. So this is the chart where we try to explain your operating budget and do it in a manner that more of a business type related things. So the orange part represents your general operating governmental, and that includes everything, primarily your general fund, things that are day-to-day operating purposes funded by your general fund, from your elected officials to your court system to the beach and so forth. And then the green represents things that are in your special taxing funds. So they have a very specific, either a millage rate associated with it or a very specific revenue source that can only be used for those purposes. And then the blue is things we consider business type activities. So it ranges everything from the airport to the ocean center to the required debt service for governmental operations to Votran and utilities and so forth. So again, out of your total $768 million, 267 of it is ad valorem taxes, or about 35% of it. And the rest of it are various other revenue sources. And this is a history of your general fund, millage rates across the last 5 years. And since 2007, the rates have been under rollback 4 times and have been below rollback 4 times. And the other ones have been flat. In the 10-year snapshot, you recall that in slide 5, we talked about 60% of the property was residential. So this is taking it down and looking at it a little bit further and evaluating that $100,000 home. So in fiscal year 2009, it was at 47.6% of them were under 100,000, and you will know that it's grown to 60% of them are now at 100,000. Again, if you take the dollar back in 2009 and grow it just by CPI alone, that value is rated $636, and we fall below that number as well. Your general fund property taxes at $185 million. If you take that, of course, same example, 2009, and grow it just by CPI, just to recover the cost of your buying power, is at $203 million. So we have fallen consistently below the need of just CPI. This slide, we've actually enhanced the slide from the last time we discussed it. We added in a comparison of what we did in 2018 versus what we're doing in 2019. But this is just your allocation of just the property taxes. Again, the $185.5 million, and how we're distributing it across the organization and so forth. So this is not a budget-to-budget comparison. It is the net effect of the revenues coming in for that operations, for example. If I am the Office of the Sheriff, I generate revenues to offset my expenditures, and for like the school board. So these were net expenditures, so this is the amount of taxes needed to cover the remaining difference of that operation. So in new construction, we generated about $3 billion. The remaining part was due to reassessments, but since you're at rollback, you're not benefiting from the reassessment part of it. So you are benefiting from new construction only. And at this point, we have it allocated to the $500,000 going to the CRA, so it's coming in and going right back out to your cities. To Votran for the new route for your Deltona, it's about $300,000. And then the Office of the Sheriff increase of about 2.2. The FY19 budget does have some one-time allocation. Again, we're doing as pay-as-you-go for the infrastructure needs of the capital projects funded by the general fund. So we're using one-time money to fulfill the medical examiner, the second year of the Sheriff's CAD records management system, the corrections jail network, the 800 megahertz backbone, which is the final year of the partial contribution for this parts, and the Sheriff's 911 next generation. So we have a total of about $5 million going to capital infrastructure. Just major capital projects, not just capital. So now, just part of the requirement is I'm going to read into the record the millage rates for each of the taxing funds and the percentage above rollback rate. The general fund is at 5.6944, which is the rollback rate. The library fund is at 0.5520, which is 7.5% greater than the rollback rate to maintain the current levels of service. The Volusia Forever is 0.0994, or 17.9% greater than the rollback rate, with the following Volusia voted debt service at 0.1006, and that is to meet your current debt service requirements. Your Volusia Echo is at your voter-approved rate of 0.20, which is 7.4% greater than the rollback rate. Your East Volusia Mosquito Control is at 0.1880, or 6.8% greater to maintain the current levels of service. Your Ponce de Leon Port Authority is at 0.0929, or 6.8% greater than rollback to meet your operating needs. Municipal Service District is at 2.2399, 6.7% greater than rollback to maintain the current levels of service. Silver Sands Bethune Beach MSD is at 0.0150, 7.1% greater than the rollback to meet your current operating needs. And your Fire Rescue District is at 4.0815, 6.7% greater than rollback to meet your operating needs of that fund. And with that, I turn it back over to the chair.
Okay. As I mentioned, this is a public hearing. We have no one who has filled a card out to speak, so we will now close the public hearing and go to council. Ms. Denny's, I think you had anyone have questions? No. I mean, I have no cards. No one's wished to speak. Pardon?
Is this, maybe
That's, yeah, it's closed. You're not the public, though. You can participate. I thought you meant you asked if you wanted to have questions during the presentation, and so I thought you might have a question.
Just a comment.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, staff, for adding those percentages back as council requested. I want to go back to the, put the one back on that's got, that's got the percentages on, 11-14, the allocation of the general fund ad valorem.
Sure.
That one. Nope.
Oops, went too fast.
There we go.
There you go.
So I think this is important to note, and this is why I wanted this specifically. When we look at all of our accounts here in the general fund, while we're going to complete rollback, the Office of the Sheriff has got an increased 7.265 million, or 16.4% increase. That's a big deal. So, George, tell us where the increase in the pay adjustment for dispatches.
Yeah, it's in the Office of the Sheriff.
And that's in this particular category?
Yes.
Okay, so I should have had this discussion prior to this. So we know that we've needed to do that. We know that we've needed a pay adjustment there, right? This is more than a 4% increase. It's almost like a compression fix. Is that a fair statement?
It's not exactly just compression, I think
It does have some, it's not just compression, because that's dealing with people coming later into, it's an actual pay adjustment. Mr. Moats is here, he can probably explain the details of it.
Tom Moats, Human Resources Director. That deals with the communication center. What we're doing is moving the pay rates to be more competitive, and they have now some progressions that are built in that people don't see. Instead of having those, we're just moving to new pay grades, and some of these folks to move to the minimum, it causes that to happen. So now our pay rates will be competitive with all the surrounding areas
Good.
and the pay rates to keep people, to attract and to retain folks, 'cause we have such turnover there.
It's been needed, and I know we've been working, this isn't, and that's why I want to discuss this in particular, because there's items that we're currently working on behind the scenes, and you just have to wait till you get to the point of rollout and implementation and to make it effective within county government. And so I know that we've been working on that behind the scenes. It's needed to be addressed. It's one that we said we were going to talk about and address along with it was a 3-year deputy contract, right? That we dealt with compression, and that went from 13.94%, I believe, almost up to some 25%.
Over 3 years, it was some got 25%.
So this council has really stepped up and listened and worked hard to do what we can do. Even with a complete rollback, we're still taking care of our employees and working on other issues still. So I just didn't want that to go unnoticed, Mr. Rechtenwald. I think this
Thank you
is
for-
a big step for the county. Mr. Chair, that's all I have right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now you can walk us through the different millage rates to propose to adopt.
There are going to be 2 actions, well, 3 actions technically, for the rest of this evening. The first one is I'm going to read into the record the millage rate, and each of these will have to be voted on separately. So if I could go ahead, if you don't mind.
Can we get those posted? Can we get those
Yes,
up on the
sir.
screen? Please. Thank you.
There it is.
There it is.
Okay. The general fund ad valorem tax rate of 5.6944 mils is equal to the rollback rate.
Chair?
Second.
Motion made by Daniels, seconded by Lowry. Any objection or discussion from the motion? Hearing no objection, the motion passes unanimous.
The library fund ad valorem tax rate is at 0.5520 mils, which is 7.5% greater than the rollback rate.
Second.
Library.
Motion made by Wheeler, seconded by Lowry. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
The Volusia Forever operating fund ad valorem tax rate is at 0.0994, which is 17.9% greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Chair, move approval of the Volusia Forever Operating Fund at 0.0994 mils, 17.9% greater than rollback rate.
Motion made by Patterson, seconded by Ms. Cusack. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
The Volusia Echo Fund ad valorem tax rate is at 0.2000 mils, which is 7.4% greater than the rollback rate.
Motion made by Ms. Cusack, seconded by Ms. Wheeler. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
The Volusia Forever Fund voted debt service is presented at 0.1006 mils to meet debt service requirements.
Is there a motion for, motion made by Ms. Cusack,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Patterson. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
The East Volusia Mosquito Control District ad valorem tax rate of 0.1880 mils is 6.8% greater than the rollback rate. Chair?
Motion made by Wheeler,
Second.
seconded by Patterson. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
The Ponce de Leon Inlet and Port District Fund ad valorem tax rate of 0.0929 mils is 6.8% greater than the rollback rate.
Motion made by Wheeler, seconded by Cusack. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
The Municipal Service District Fund is presented at 2.2399 mils, which is 6.7% greater than the rollback rate.
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the Municipal Services District Fund ad valorem tax rate of 2.2399 mils is 6.7% greater than rollback rate.
Motion made by Patterson, seconded by Wheeler. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
The next rate is the Silver Sands Bethune Beach ad valorem tax rate of 0.0150 mils, or 7.1% greater than the rollback rate.
Is there a motion to that? Motion made by Wheeler and seconded by Ms. Cusack. I think she was nodding. Any objection to that motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
The last one is your Fire Rescue District tax ad valorem rate of 4.0815 mils, or 6.7% greater than the rollback rate.
Motion made by Wheeler,
Second.
seconded by Patterson. Any objection to that motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously.
The next action for tonight is their approval to adopt the fiscal year 2018-19 tentative operating budget totaling $768,755,651 and a non-operating budget of $141,044,123.
Mr. Chair, move approval to adopt the fiscal year 2018-19 tentative operating budget totaling $768,755,651 and a non-operating budget of $141,044,123.
Second.
Motion made by Denny, seconded by Patterson. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous.
And the last action for this evening is the approval to schedule the second public hearing to adopt the fiscal 2018-19 ad valorem tax rates and budget on Tuesday, September 18th, 2018 at 6 p.m. in these chambers, Thomas C. Kelly Administration Building.
I'm waiting for you, Mr. Patterson.
Move to approve the schedule the second public hearing to adopt the fiscal year 2018-19 Volusia County budget and ad valorem tax rates for Tuesday, September 18th, 2018 at 6 p.m. in the County Council Chambers, Thomas C. Kelly Administration Building, DeLand, Florida.
I will second that.
Seconded by Post. Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimous. Thank you so much for that thorough and understandable report. And congratulations to all who helped make possible this going back to rollback. And I think it was a great effort, as well as funding adequately those departments that needed it and providing for, I think, a very good, complete look at our personnel and making sure that we're taking care of that. Anything else?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If not, I have one more thing. Ms. Seaman needs 2 minutes, and put her on the clock, please. That's what she said.
Yes, sir. About a month ago, you all approved offer of settlement to the City of Daytona Beach Shores for settling the lawsuits that we had in the dispute resolution. That offer was accepted. The documents have been executed by the City of Daytona Beach Shores. Based on your prior motion, I'm advising you that we are going to be providing those documents to the chair and the manager for signature, and we will be filing dismissal of the lawsuits.
Did you, anybody make you didn't need a motion on that, right? Okay, that's what I thought. With that, we stand adjourned at 6:29.